because my the main goal of FC Game Changer, the podcast that we do, the people that we bring in, is to pretty much it's to give the blueprint right to the next generation, to the young
Hmm.
athletes, to the ones that one don't believe themselves. Maybe by listening to you, they're gonna be like, wait a minute, I can actually do this. Some of them they just don't know the resources that they may have, and now especially international players, they can listen to you, watch this, and be like, wait, there's a solution to this, to what I want to do. So
Right.
let's. One question I have for you before we kind of unpack this whole thing that you just told me is, in Sweden, can you play at a high level or play professionally and also go to school at the same time?
I mean, it's possible, but I would say that it's extremely difficult at some point throughout your, if we're talking university level, if you're going to study at a university, you're going to have to choose
You're gonna have to choose one.
football or yeah, right,
Okay.
right. Because at the university, they're not going to take into consideration whether you have training in the morning or a game, or you have to travel for a game. In the end, I know that there's some people that are playing highest level for first division in Sweden that they do get treated differently at certain universities. But I
Mm,
mean, it's one out of 100,000 that gets that treatment. So no, no,
okay.
basically not.
This is
And for me, it was never an option for me to study in Sweden. I didn't have the grades enough. I would have never come up with the idea to study for the Swedish SAT, because he had nothing. Because then I wouldn't play football, so I didn't have that motivation to do that. But once it came to make it into college, I was like, well, I gotta pass this. So
because you had the incentive of also playing at a high level
it,
and then maybe in the future become a professional footballer. So
exactly,
yeah, so
exactly. So
it's
I'm actually a huge fan of the American route, of people going to the US, and
100%.
absolutely.
100%. So it's the same thing in Brazil. You can't do both. You have to choose. It's either or. And I'm with you. I'm a huge fan, not just with
Hmm.
football, but in high school, kids are already playing at a high level all sports.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
said, in Brazil, you just pick football. It's just football, football, football. There's nothing else for you to kind of strive for. Okay, so now you understanding and knowing yourself. You just mentioned your mom kind of brought that up and kind of had that incentive and saying, hey, what about this route?
Hmm.
What about going to the US and maybe trying becoming a student athlete, playing football, but also going to school. But then you're like, I don't know, I want to become a professional footballer in Sweden. All right, so then you waited a little bit until, like you said, things started going downhill.
Hmm.
What I really loved what you said was you didn't blame anyone else but you.
Hmm.
Break that down for me. What happened there?
So, so going into that last year, this was 2014, and I went to Creighton in 2015, in January 2015. So, starting that 2014 year, I was I had signed a new contract with my team, with the Sirius,
Mm-hmm.
and we had gotten promoted up to second division. We had played in third division. We went unbeaten and got promoted to second division. I had recently, just a month before preseason, gotten called up to the under 18 national team 24 player camp, and did really well. And I was told that you might be called up to play get some caps for the youth national team. So at that point, starting that year, I was
Buzzing.
I was in. Yeah, I prepared myself really well in the off season, and this was gonna be my year. I didn't even have a clue about nutrition. I didn't have a clue about how my body worked. I didn't have a single clue about sleep and how important that was. Um, and I got sick a lot, stupid sicknesses like a sore throat, some fever, this and that. I lost basically the whole preseason because of that. And once you lose out on preseason, you're at that level, you're done. And then together with that, your confidence goes down because you feel like you can't keep up with the rest, and that is so important. It's so important to get off to a good start because of the momentum that you get with your confidence, and you feel like I can keep up. But if it goes the other way, it's hard to dig yourself out of that hole, and that's something I don't think is focused on so much, at least not spoken out to the world, from players, that how important it is to be able to manage your confidence and bad moments, good moments, and to get momentum and get off to a good start. Whether it's in a game, by yourself, if you get a good touches in the beginning of the game,
especially the first
it's
ones.
Right. And if you miss that first couple passes, ooh,
yeah, it's like, oh, we're gonna have a rough game today.
Yep. Yeah. And it's the same, over time. If you kind of zoom out and you feel like maybe this isn't my year, now they're gonna loan me out and so on. So that's kind of where I was mentally. And once I started, I really started out on a high going into that preseason, working hard in the off the field and training many hours extra with the ball and without the ball. But once it started going poorly, I didn't do anything of that, and that's the only way back. And if you don't do that, you're not gonna come back from that. So eventually in the summer I got loaned out, and I didn't get any result from that loan spell either, and because I was 19 years old and I had to work, and I had never worked before, like a real job, and it was tough to go to the training sessions in the afternoon after a full work day. There was a lot of things. It was not the right thing to do, but like I said, it was my own doing. It came from not doing the things the right way. So that's why thankfully enough I didn't do the things right, because that took me to the States eventually.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so yeah, that's crazy how that happens. That's the reason, going back to the main goal of FC Game Changer, is, look, you didn't have the knowledge, and I don't blame you, right? Like, you didn't have anyone to talk to you about that stuff, not just in terms of nutrition, rest, sleep, strength and conditioning, but mentally as well, the psychology of how can you even if you we just mentioned the first few touches of a game. When you have that, it's like, okay, we're having a good game today. But now if it's a bad touch, it's a bad pass right at the start of the game, that could basically ruin your entire game. Or if you have the understanding, the knowledge, forget about that, move on, and start it over to overcome that, right? So I don't blame you. But now, going back to the audience here, look, like, let's say 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, watching, listening, now they're like, oh, wait a minute, he's talking about nutrition, he's talking about psychology, let me do a little bit more research so I don't have to, I'm not gonna say suffer, go through what you had to go through. Right. Because look, let's say, be grateful, you're lucky, right, in a way, because if you kept going downhill, who knows where life would have taken you. However, you had that push to go to a different, you came to the US, you went to a very good school, well-known school, and again, look where you are right now. Some kids, if things are probably going downhill, they don't have the information they need to, game over. They'll be stuck in that factory, right?
Exactly. They quit. They
unhappy.
They say this isn't for me, and well, get on with life.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And in the same way that I say that it was my own wrongdoing that I didn't have a good year that year, it was also because of myself that I made it to the US. I made that effort for it to
Exactly.
happen.
It just didn't come to you, right?
Exactly.
Like you said,
exactly.
you had
it didn't show up magically. It was, I looked into it, did my research, and I put down hours studying for my test and so on. So absolutely, in the same way that it was my fault, I can say I made that happen.
You see, it's crazy. Like, and again, I'm just gonna go back to the audience again. I feel like kids, I don't remember being that way, but I feel like kids, it's a lot easier for them to give up. Any hardship that they have, now they give up straight away, instead of like, wait a minute, like you just said, I'm in control of the bad, I'm in control of the good as well.
Yeah.
You made that happen. You made the downfall happen, but you also made it happen in terms of the positive, to come to the West. Not easy, right? Didn't come to you, and Creighton didn't come to you and say, hey, here's Joel, come play with us. No, you disliked the people you're working with, like the agencies that you talked about. So then you're like, you know what, you screw them, I'm gonna do myself all the work that I need to do in order to find me a solution to this. Look how crazy, like how many people would have done, like, you know, like, you're different. To go in.
Yes, I think something that happens, I'm still keeping an eye on what's going on in the US and the soccer over there, of course. And I think something that's happening right now is that the system that they're building with the academies and MLS Next Pro and then MLS, they're paving such a very straight way in how the kids have to go in order to make it pro, what they have to do. If you don't make it to the academy, well, you're not going to make it to the MLS. But I think that once you open up the world a little bit and you can take your focus off, as I imagine many kids have the dream today of making it to the MLS, if you open your world a little bit, there's so much more in terms of football than just the MLS. Like
100%.
I was so set on playing First Division Sweden that it didn't mean anything to me to make it anywhere else. But eventually, once I realized that Sweden wasn't the only country in the world, and you know, the only place that you could make it, there's so many options for everyone, and all you have to do is, obviously, it's up to you to work hard. You have to be a good enough football player. That's obviously number one. But
yeah,
I mean, you can send an email. Like there's nothing wrong with that. You can put together your own highlight video. And
100%.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. And I think that I can see that in the US, they're making it seem as if there is one way or no way.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. No, it's you know, access to the internet, our phones nowadays, you know, recording 4K, pull up a tripod, record yourself playing,
score some bangers,
you score some
and
bangers,
and that's it.
and that's it. Do like a, could be rough, just show, you know, like your capabilities as a player. Go, like I said, top 20, top 30, whatever, just Google it. On the school's websites, you will find name, picture, and email, and sometimes phone number of the coaches.
And honestly, be a pain in the ass.
100%.
Like, it doesn't, whether it's, if you take your eyes off of college and the US, like, reach out to a club in Spain and say, listen, this is me, I want to come for a trial. Can I come? You know, there's so many clubs and there's so many people, but no one's going to see you unless you put yourself out there, because there are a few selected ones, a very, very small percentage that players that people want. You know, that players are desired. They're like, well, I'm going to offer you a full ride at UNC or whatever. The rest of us, I think you have to market yourself.
Yeah, no, this is so good, man, for people to listen, watch to this, and hopefully spark, you know, not just like you mentioned, players in the United States, but also in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's there are ways. If you really want it, if you made a decision, I want to become a professional footballer. Again, like you said, there's a lot of things that you have to be realistic. You have to be a really good footballer. You have to do all the right things, you know. But if you're that player, it's pretty much up to you.
Yes,
to reach
absolutely.
That. Yeah.
And it's okay to ask for help as well.
Yeah.
You know, ask your coach. Do you know someone that might be interested? Or ask whoever it is. You know, I think that's the main point, and what's important is to reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out and ask, and don't be afraid to say, I think I'm good enough. Are you interested?
Yeah. No, this is so good. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please subscribe down below. And if you're interested to learn more and watch the full interview, click down here. I'll catch you soon. Have a good one.